Hi, welcome to UTP Presents. I'm Anna Silver, and today I'm interviewing James Patrick, the Executive Director of the Velma V. Morrison Center for Performing Arts. James, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and so why don't we just start out with you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the Morrison Center.
Awesome. Well, first I'd like to just thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the Morrison Center and myself. You know, it all started back in high school, I've got to say. That's when I first really caught the bug, so to speak, for the performing arts and acting. I always say that two things kind of really changed my life. One, getting involved in the arts, and two, believe it or not, was the invention of the contact lens. I know that sounds funny, but prior to that, I was behind these big Coke bottle glasses, and I really wasn't able to kind of like really get out there. So those two things changed my life, and I loved the arts, and so I did that all through high school, and when I went to college, and I went to Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and I graduated from the business school with a degree in accounting. My folks were not crazy about paying for a degree in acting, believe it or not. I know that sounds surprising. So I did my accounting thing, but I always loved the arts even in college, and so as soon as I graduated, I beelined it right to New York City, and I lived there for 6 years, and I studied acting, and eventually I got into the unions, and I became a professional actor for a period of time, and you know, I did a little bit of film and a little bit of television and some plays, and I guess the most recognizable thing I kind of did was I had a small part on a soap opera called Another World. And you probably don't remember that soap opera. You're a little too young for that, and it's no longer on the air. No fault of mine, but it's no longer on the air. And I realized in that last year when I was doing this part and doing some things and just pretty much getting by still, it wasn't like I was, you know, rolling in the dough or anything like that. What I realized was in that same year I was producing some small plays that I did and doing some small films, and I think my parents were ultimately right that this business degree, when I used my business skills and when I combined them with my artistic sensibilities, well, that's when I really was at my best. So I decided to pursue a career in managing the arts, in performing arts management. And I ended up getting some positions. First I worked on cruise ships for a while as a cruise director, overseeing entertainment. And then I moved on and went back to Brooklyn and New York City and studied and got a Master's of Fine Arts in Performing Arts Management, and then worked for various places and got more experience. And then I ended up here in 2010, as you reminded me earlier. I was hired in January of 2010.
Wow, it sounds like you have a lot of experience. So you were the director of the Warner Center in Torrington, Connecticut.
Yes.
And what made you make the move to Boise?
Well, you know, we had accomplished so much at the Warner Theater. I had been there for 7 years. It was a really important job for me. We had built a brand new theater. We had raised $8 million in fundraising. We had created so many new programs, and it just felt like a really good time for me to transition. And my first job out of graduate school was working for the City University of New York, and that was a great experience. And I thought, you know, at some point, I want to run another theater on a campus and get back to academia. I enjoyed that setting, and then this opportunity came, and it seemed like it was a good fit for me and my family.
Great. So you increased the attendance at the Warner Center by 30%. That's impressive. Do you have any plans like that for the Morrison Center?
Absolutely, and since I've been here 4 years, a lot of those plans have already been in place or in the making. It's been a great run the last 4 years. Some highlights: we were just ranked as one of the top 50 venues for worldwide ticket sales. So that's worldwide ticket sales. I don't think a lot of people know that. This is by a third-party magazine called Polestar, and they rank all the different venues. So that was pretty exciting. And I really feel that in the last 4 years, all of our Broadway programs and our other programs have really excelled and kind of delivered. I mean, we can have attendance up to 130,000 people in a given year.
Wow.
That's a lot of people going through the doors. In fact, we had 40,000 patrons visit us just for Wicked alone. We had a special 3-week run just last year. That was 24 performances. We had never done that before, had never been done in the history of the state or the center. And so that was really some great hallmarks for us and some accomplishments. And we also continue to improve the facility, just making it better and better for patrons and the fan experience. So I think we've done a lot already, but I think it's just going to be onward and upwards for us. That's the plan. Well,
that's amazing. So how long has the Morrison Center been running, and how did it start?
Well, it started in 1984. The opening show was My Fair Lady, and it was certainly the dream of Harry and Velma Morrison. They were the founders, and it was their vision. And it was a private-public partnership between individuals and the university that came together to realize their dream. And it cost $15 million back in 1984. And I can tell you right now, it would take many, many times that to replace the Morrison Center.
Right. Well, that's good to know. So what kind of performances are held at the Morrison Center?
Well, I think it sounds cliche, but I really would like for us to think that we have something for everyone, because that kind of is our goal. But our signature series certainly is Broadway. Harry Morrison wanted to make sure that Idahoans could enjoy a Broadway performance in their own backyard and not have to travel to New York City. So we're kind of committed to that. That's our signature series, so to speak. That said, we're also really committed to all of our resident companies, these local community companies that just do such great work. And those include the Boise Philharmonic, Ballet Idaho, Boise Music Week, Boise State Music and Theater Departments. We love having the students in there and having that chance for them to perform on our stage. We've had Opera Idaho has come back in the last couple of years, and The Cabin. So these are our collaborators. They're important to our mission. They're important to our programming, and we are committed to their success.
That's great. And so like you mentioned before about the Broadway performances, you know, there's some very notable ones that come to the Morrison Center, such as Camelot and Jersey Boys. What kind of process do you go through to get those big performances here?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that question, and it's kind of a complicated process to actually get the shows, so I'll do my best. First thing I should say is that all of our Broadway shows are made possible in part by these great collaborators we have, Magic Space Entertainment in Utah. They help us with this process. We don't do it on our own. But we're always looking for the very best that Broadway has to offer, Broadway touring. So that's always kind of our goal, is to offer, you know, the best that we can get to bring to Boise and our patrons and what we can secure for the market. We're what's considered a split week market. So most of the time a performance, a professional touring production sits for a week and it plays 8 performances. But due to our size in Boise, as a split week market, we only do usually 3 performances.
Okay.
So a lot of it has to do with the routing. Like, as you probably know, Boise is, one of the great things about it is it's known as the most isolated metropolis in the lower 48. So that works with us sometimes for routing and sometimes it doesn't. So there's always that. The bigger shows like Wicked or Jersey Boys or even you know, Book of Mormon, those might stay anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. So I guess ultimately it comes down to pricing, how much the shows cost, and the tour routing. It's an art, but it's also a business, and so the shows really have to make financial sense for us in most cases to bring them here, unless they're a show that's really mission-based.
Okay, well that's very good to know. I didn't know that. So there is a family series and summer performance camps.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Sure. Well, we consider ourselves Idaho's premier performing arts center. And part of our mission certainly is community outreach and engagement. So I think it's really important to engage children at a young age to introduce them to the arts. I mean, these are the patrons of the future, so we want them to, you know, enjoy theater early on. And I think there's a lot of studies out there now that have really shown validation for the arts and children and learning. Children engaged in the arts are not only usually better students, some studies have shown, but also ultimately more civic-minded adults. So I think we have some of the research behind us. And so our family theater series, the goal of that is really just to bring affordable entertainment, to the center in the form of public performances. And some of them have curricular integration. We do have study guides for many of those so the parents can and teachers can interact with those. Tickets are affordable, like I mentioned, starting at $7.50, some of our programs. So for us, these programs are about access and opportunity. But I should mention that our resident companies also help us out in our educational mission, like the Philharmonic and Ballet Idaho. They do a lot of daytime programs, busing the kids into the schools, from the schools rather. And so a lot of kids get to experience the arts through our resident companies. And then I think you mentioned the camp, right?
Yes.
That's kind of our signature educational program, the camp. We present 4 weeks of camp. We work with this company called Greater Idaho Family Theater, GIFT they're called. They're local. They're terrific. We take children grades 1 through 12, and basically what they do is they build a musical from the ground up for 6 days, and then they have 3 performances at the end to show what their work has been. We have about 230 kids that participate each year. Every year, we're very lucky, the camps, through word of mouth or whatever, they just sell out in all 4 weeks. And so it's really affordable and also a great part of, again, us educating youth and reaching out to the community.
Well, that's such a great experience for kids to get them on the right track if they are interested in that type of thing.
Absolutely.
So, so the Morrison Center opened its doors on April 7th, 1984.
Yes.
And this year marks the 30th anniversary. What kind of events are going on for that?
Right. I was a little nervous about this question, I might say, because I was like, wow, you're right. This is the 30th anniversary. Why haven't I planned something? But I have, I think, a reasonable answer for that. The center had a really big celebration for its 25th anniversary, and that was before I got here. And then we had a very big event last year honoring Velma Morrison's passing. She had passed away at 92, and she was an incredible philanthropist and advocate for the arts. So we had those 2 recent big events. And this year, we really have a very big Broadway series. I would say it's, in many cases, the most popular we've had in the history of the center, at least from a subscription standpoint. We have over 3,800 subscribers. So 3,800 patrons have subscribed to the full series that we're offering. And for those people who don't know, subscription is this process that gets you kind of the best seats, show after show, year after year. And these people are committing, you know, to the performing arts and committing to that schedule. So while it is the 30th anniversary, I think it's going to be a big year in and of itself, just based on the programming that we have.
Right, awesome. So you kind of mentioned this earlier, but what are some of the most notable performances in your eyes?
I think I mentioned Wicked. That was really very notable. But there's one that I didn't mention that was, I'd say, my most memorable in the last 4 years, and that would be Warhorse. The center was selected as the location for the tour's technical rehearsal. And so the company was with us for 4 weeks. A whole month they lived in our community, ate at our restaurants. We got to know them. We presented 3 previews of the show before the national tour even opened in Los Angeles. So that was pretty spectacular. You don't get to do that. And now we've become kind of a destination for these technical tryouts, kind of like an out-of-town tryout, so to speak. We've done that with Memphis and several other performers as well. So we're kind of getting some notoriety for that, which is great. And that allows us to bring really great entertainment to the Boise community. I'm not sure we would have been able to secure Warhorse otherwise if it wasn't for the fact that we were able to do the technical rehearsal and then do these previews. And the show has won so many awards. It was pretty spectacular, like I said. So that would be my most memorable.
Great. And so on that note, what are some performances that we can look forward to in the future?
Well, it's constantly changing. We are always booking things and people are always renting the venue, so it's constantly changing. But I would say, again, back to the Broadway series, I would think for this year, certainly Jersey Boys and Book of Mormon are kind of the big hits with the most accolades coming to the center. Both of them will be here for a week and 8 performances.
Great. Well, I'll be looking forward to that as well.
Oh, great. You should. Come see a show.
I will. So the Morrison Center is a nonprofit organization. So what kinds of things support the center so it can continue to be part of the community and the university?
Great question. Great question. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that we actually are an auxiliary unit of the Boise State University. I'm a Boise State employee. We're very similar to, say, Boise State Public Radio or Taco Bell Arena in that regard. We have to be self-sufficient. We live and die by our own budget. And we are fortunate that in the last 4 years or so, we've been able to support ourselves mostly on earned revenues through ticket sales and other earned revenue streams. And that really has made up the majority of our budget. But we're also really fortunate that our founders had such foresight and created what is called the Morrison Center Endowment Foundation. And that is really our safety net. And the endowment supports us in times of need for operational expenses. It also provides us funding for capital improvements, and we've done a lot of big capital improvements, replacing the chiller, for example, within the last 4 years, a new sound system. So they're there for us, they're our safety net. And with the creation of the Morrison Center Endowment, we're not really forced to kind of put a burden on the community every year for fundraising efforts. So I think that's important that people understand that about our business model, and we're very thankful to Velma Morrison and her family for creating this foundation and ensuring that we have such an important safety net. It's kind of unique around the country. We also work with a lot of businesses. We don't do a lot of fundraising, but when we do some strategic fundraising with national businesses like Fred Meyer and others who kind of support us through sponsorship initiatives. So that's kind of how our budget works and kind of how we are supported. Great.
Are there ways for people to get involved in the productions, such as try out for them even?
We do get that question a lot, and I have to say that what people don't always realize is we're a presenting organization as opposed to, say, a producing organization. So we don't really build the show from the ground up in most cases. We're a presenter, and we're always trying to bring the very best professional entertainment that's on tour and bring it to us, and bring it to our residents and bring it to our stage, as well as support our resident companies, which I mentioned. So that's kind of how our programming develops. So there's not a lot of opportunities for people to audition for a show outside of, for example, Boise Music Week does a full week in our theater. You could audition for Boise Music Week and end up on our stage doing a great musical. But other than that, I'd say the best way to participate in that regard would be to come see a show as a patron. That's really the best way when you're a presenter.
Well, there you go. So are there opportunities for people to volunteer, get involved in that way, or even donate
Absolutely.
to the Morrison Center?
Yes, absolutely. There are. And that's a great way for people to get engaged with what we do is through volunteering. We have what's called the Morrison Center Volunteers. And there's about 500 already dedicated men and women who are from all over the community that work as our ushers and our ticket takers and our concessionaires, and they're with us all the time. They're also our donors. They do provide funding to us each year, and we really couldn't do all we do without their support. So that's a great way to get involved, is by being a volunteer in that regard through that organization. But I might add, we also have a lot of student involvement, which some people aren't aware of. Students can work in our box office, they can work front of house, they can work backstage. Many of them have worked on these fabulous shows like Wicked and Warhorse. So there's ways to get engaged at that level as well. On a donating side, as I mentioned, we don't do a lot of fundraising, but when we do, we have an education fund, and those funds are used to support scholarships to students who participate in the camps that we talked about. As well as free tickets. We give away thousands of free tickets each year to those in need, both children and families, as well as nonprofits. A lot of them have fundraising events and galas, and they need tickets that they can then use to raise other funds. So we give away thousands of tickets each year. So that's kind of our outreach and how we kind of give back to the community. The university, of course, supports us in some ways as well through infrastructure. But there's a lot of ways to get involved, I think, and there's a lot of ways you can make a difference working with us.
Okay, and on that note, are there any internships for students or scholarships available to those students?
Great question. We are working on a new internship program, so I don't have a lot of details on that yet, but we really want to create an internship program. I think the Morrison Center would be perfect for that. So I would say that people should keep their ears and eyes open, that in the near future, we are going to develop an internship program and really fully realize it. Regarding scholarships, though, you bring up a good point that not too long ago, in Velma Morrison's name, with her passing, we did create a special scholarship opportunity, contributing $50,000 to establish a scholarship for students, theater students. to benefit them. And so I believe that will kick in the coming year, where people will be able to apply for the Velma V. Morrison Scholarship, and that will benefit them to help pay for their schooling. So that's another really important outreach that we have done. That's
really great. So changing over, how do people purchase tickets? Are there different ways to purchase tickets?
There's a lot of ways. First, I should say, well, you can certainly always visit our website at morrisoncenter.com, so that's kind of easy to remember. You can always visit us in the box office, which is right in the lobby of the theater. You can call us at 426-1110. That's another way to purchase tickets. I will say that about 90% of our tickets are sold online now. That's kind of hard to believe, but that's how popular the web is. But speaking of just staying connected, I think another great thing is through our newsletter. That's a great way to stay informed of upcoming events. And so people should try to participate in that. And you can just go to our website and sign up. It's free. There's no charge. We have about 70,000 people or email addresses that are part of this database. And those people find out all about the new shows, when they're coming, discounts, promotions. That's really the best way to stay in touch with us on an ongoing basis, is to join the newsletter.
So do you advertise a lot for the Morrison Center, for Boise State, or just in the community?
Yeah, I think we have a very aggressive media campaign, and much of it is event-driven, though. So you're not going to see a lot of ads out there like, just about the Morrison Center. It's going to be regarding the specific shows that were coming.
Right.
But we do that very aggressively in all mediums. So you'll see us regularly in the scene in these Idaho Statesmen on Friday and sometimes in Sundays. We use radio, we use television, cable, direct mail, lots of internet campaigns, Facebook. We found that Facebook is still kind of the best way to interact with the students, though email works as well. And we're always trying to engage Boise State students and that community as much as possible.
Well, good. So recently I've heard that the policy changed, so students cannot purchase or pick up their tickets at the sub-info desk. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I have to get back to you on that. I'm not really sure that that's true or not. We still are using the sub as an outlet, so I'm not sure whether that's really the case. There were some changes that are happening with our ticketing system. We are moving to a different ticketing system, the entire university is, which is going to be moving to Ticketmaster, as opposed to our previous venue. So the infrastructure has changed a little on the university, but we're still partnering with, say, athletics and Taco Bell Arena, as well as the sub. So I believe that students should be able to still get that, and if not, I will research that further after this interview and find out more about that. But I'm pretty sure they still can do that. Yep.
Okay. And how has your experience been so far in the last 4 years since you've taken up this position?
Oh, my family and I really enjoy it. I have a wife and a son who's 6, and I think there was some trepidation and risk, and I'm from the East Coast, born and raised, so coming out west is always a little scary. It was new territory for us, so to speak. Go west, young man. But interesting enough, Boise has just been a place that's been easy to like. We love the environment, we love the academic setting. I think, as I was mentioning to you earlier, I teach in the theater department. My wife teaches in the theater department. My son loves school here. We've made friends. It's just a very livable city, so we're very happy. We're very happy here.
Very good. Is there anything I missed on that you would like to add today about the Morrison Center, or anything in general?
No, I think, mostly I'd just like to say I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you and to talk more about the Morrison Center. I think the center holds a really special and unique place in the history of Boise and the state and the university. I think it's a world-class facility, and it's really an important asset, I think, in the university's portfolio. So we have a compelling mission, and that's important for people to understand, and I'm glad we had this opportunity to do that. I think our founding executive director, his name was Fred Norman, and I think he called the center the People's Theater, and I think that's really important, and I concur with that. It's here to enjoy for all, whether you're rich, poor, young, or old. We're really trying to provide access to the arts. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you as well. So this is all the time we have for today for UTP Presents. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Anna Silver, and until next time, we are signing off today.